Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. What's the best way to defeat an opponent? By turning their own power against them. Colin Kaepernick started off as a symbol of resistance. Then he showed up endorsing Nike shoes. These days he's palling around with people like Agent Duvernay, a woman who boldly proclaimed her adoration for Harvey Weinstein of all people. Overnight, Colin Kaepernick went from being a movement to a mini-series. Power makes it a point to co-opt movements. That's how you get Pepsi ads with white girls like Kendall Jenner giving the police a can of Pepsi, and it's all supposed to be fun and games. Well, the young people in the streets weren't laughing. Pepsi gave the feeble excuse that they didn't mean to offend, they had missed the mark and didn't intend to make light of any serious issue. Except that's exactly what they intended to do. I told you last year about one of the white media's phony grassroots organization's human rights campaign. June of last year, at the very height of the uprisings, here's some group that nobody ever heard of, and the white media's giving them tons of exposure and coverage and asking their asinine opinions about things pertaining to black people. And these human rights campaign clowns, they turn around and say, well, it's all about LGBT rights. It's not just black rights, it's everyone's rights. But they send a black front person to say this gibberish. And then you go to Human Rights Campaign's website and you see that they're an LGBT organization. What the world are they doing weighing in on anti-police violence? What are they doing weighing in on Black Lives Matter? These guys are all about gay marriage and transgender bathrooms. Now, they don't mention anything about black people on their website at all. They're such an obvious sock puppet organization, it's not even worth a discussion. But when you look at who Human Rights Campaign's donor list is, what a surprise. You see PepsiCo is there. Kendall Jenner's purpose was to make a white woman the focus of attention in black people's protests. This was them giving the middle finger to black people taking to the streets and forcing changes on the system that benefits white companies like PepsiCo. Black people are on the march and white corporations are plastering the airwaves and internet with propaganda saying, let's look at some white woman. And when their propaganda blew up in their faces and they were forced to withdraw it, they didn't stop. They just put their media buyers to work and paid MSNBC and CNN and others to give their black sock puppets some airtime. They were going to derail the conversation one way or the other. So the very people who ridicule black folks in the streets fighting for their human dignity and survival send out some clowns who the white media tells you are supporting black people's survival and dignity. But I'm sure this is all a coincidence. And by the way, this is just a small part of Human Rights Campaign's list of donors. They get money from a hell of a lot of Fortune 500 companies. It seems like everybody's on their list of donors. Everyone from Apple to Amazon to Google, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Morgan Stanley, Capital One, Target, Chevron, PayPal, MasterCard, Citibank, Starbucks, and a bunch of others. Oh, and lest I forget, one of Human Rights Campaign's so-called gold partners is Nike. The same Nike who Colin Kaepernick was paid to endorse. The enemy believes in taking both sides. I'm not sure why that's so hard for some of us to understand. Another fly-by-night LGBT organization that misuses the label black is the so-called National Black Justice Coalition. These were the clowns who the white media tried to use as a shield to hide behind when they were attacking Dave Chappelle last month. The NBJC's homepage makes it clear that their issue is LGBT advocacy. Okay, but if all they care about is gay marriage and transgender bathrooms, why are they using black in their name? Because they want to ride the coattails of our movement and create a false association between our struggle to survive and their demand that society validate whatever they do in the bedroom. Black people stand with Dave Chappelle. That's a fact. So why is their attention being given at all to this gang of nobodies who are clearly just another sock puppet organization? All you have to do is look at their sponsors. Tariq has already gone in on NBJC's sponsorship by Planned Parenthood and Procter & Gamble, and if you haven't checked out his video on that subject, you need to. But I wanted to discuss their connection to Sony Music. Sony Music persecuted and defamed Michael Jackson, and they're still attacking him even in death. Their parent company Sony got their email hacked, and movie executives Amy Pascal and Scott Rudin's racism was revealed. So these guys are as racist as they come. And yet, in early June of 2020, at the exact same time that Human Rights Watch was getting this big white media push, Sony Music came out of nowhere and announced that they were going to dedicate $100 million to social justice and anti-racist initiatives. So the perpetrators and supporters of racism use the white media, which they control, to spread the lie that they're going to fight racism and white supremacy. Well, at least we found out where all that money went to. So there's a huge amount of money behind these sock puppet groups. The biggest, richest, most powerful corporations on the planet manufacture these front groups. They go get some front Negro to stand in front of the cameras and falsely claim that they're running it. And then they pay the white media to do a segment about their puppet organization, and their Negro tool immediately begins pushing the line that everyone's interests need to be discussed, not just black people's. And if that tactic sounds familiar, it should. We normally hear this from the right wing, like Fox and Right Wing Hate Radio. It's all lives matter in drag, and the biggest, richest, whitest corporations on the planet are pushing it. Family, wherever the money goes, that's where the movement goes. So we need to recognize when white power is reaching out, using its money to co-opt our movements. A key way to keep people running in circles is to find whomever it is they seem to be following at the moment and get them to mislead the masses. This is not to say that Colin Kaepernick is a bad person. This is not about him. Destroying anti-black racism is far bigger than any one person. I ride with someone up until the point they start bringing in all these uninvited passengers. Dr. John Henrik Clarke would often refer to the evil genius of Europe. Any devious system that's lasted for half a millennium and managed to spread to the four corners of the world is not a stupid system. A system that manages to adapt to opposition and to pacify and eventually co-opt that opposition to the point that people are fooled, at least for a while, into thinking that they've actually made progress and that things have changed. That's not a stupid system. It's an absolutely brilliant one. We have to come to terms with that so we can destroy it. Otherwise, we'll do what we've been doing for 150 years, tell ourselves that we have somehow tamed this savage beast, or even worse than that, tell us that we've defeated it when in truth, we haven't done anything at all. They've still got us on strings. But perhaps the greatest of white supremacy's evil genius is that they made it a point to monetize oppression. They do this so that it becomes a self-reinforcing, self-sustaining system of evil. They turn barbarity, perversion, and slaughter into big business. And they made people, behavior, and ideas into mere commodities. But as Neely Fuller said, they believe in taking both sides of the conversation, so it's only natural that they would see the need to ultimately have to monetize the resistance movements that would inevitably arise to fight white supremacy. Get the people that they oppress to buy products from their oppressors, because they were told these products are symbols of their resistance. They've commoditized our protests, then monetized them, and turn it into just more fuel for their machine. People will buy a Nike product thinking that they're supporting anti-racism when in fact they're supporting the very people who commit the racism. Colin Kaepernick wants to get paid. That's why he joined the NFL. I get that, and I don't begrudge him his money. His Nike deal is simply the same endorsement that he would have gotten had he not been banned from the league. That's not the issue. But there's a reality here. The same white corporations who carry out white supremacy aren't going to help tear themselves down. Glenn Scott Heron famously observed that the revolution will not be televised. His song was mostly about telling people to resist consumerism, the mindless buying of products whether you need them or not, and half the time you don't even need them. These companies you see, they're not neutral observers in white supremacy. They are the driving engine of it. You won't destroy white supremacy until you've destroyed them. But in order to do that, we will require replacements for them, replacements that we own, we control. Black empowerment will not come into its own until we have acquired enough resources and organization where we turn destroying white supremacy into big business and make it where the more they resist, the more profit they generate for us. Now, nobody's saying that this is going to be quick or easy, but I am saying that we must put crushing white supremacy's corporate foundation on the to-do list. Because in our world, justice only has one side. Good day, and be one.